Hello, everyone. For those of you who missed our first chat yesterday, we had our first coffee with CatalystCreativ. It's a new web series that we're going to be doing webinars on Wednesdays at 12 noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. And so we had a little technical glitch yesterday. So unfortunately, our session yesterday did not record, so we decided that we would try to recap it a bit today. It won't be quite the whole 30 or 45 minutes that it was yesterday, and it won't include the questions portion, but we have answered those questions in a blog post, which we'll send along with this recording. So first off, we'd just like for everyone, we mentioned this yesterday as well, to just take a couple of deep breaths, settle in. This should be about 15 or 20 minutes where we'll do a quick recap on what we discussed yesterday, which is remote working. Obviously, this has been a crazy time for everyone, and a lot of people are new to remote work, and we've had a lot of our clients reach out to us because it's sort of a known thing that CatalystCreativ, when we started 7.5 years ago, became a fully remote working team. So we've been at it for about 7 years. And we just wanted to share a little bit about what has made it work for us, so those of you who are new can learn from our mistakes. So I'm Robert Fowler. I'm our co-founder and chief creative officer of Catalyst. Like I said, our whole team is remote, and we're a creative agency that focuses on branding, marketing, and events. And we have a proprietary method called the 7th level, which we use in all of our work. And if you haven't read our co-founder Amanda's book, The 7th Level, I highly encourage you to do that. Amanda was able to join the recording yesterday, but unfortunately she's not able to join today as she's still on maternity leave. So she will be joining hopefully for our webinar next week. So definitely tune in for that. So we really decided to do these calls out of necessity. So I've always been a huge believer that we as humans need connection. We need collaboration. And that's really why events has always been such a huge part of my life and my career. And I have no doubt that we'll get back to the world where we meet in person. We get to hug each other and have huge events and weddings and conferences. But for right now, things are just a little bit different. So we've got to find new ways to connect. And our hope is that you take away from this call a few ways that you might be able to connect with your team, even though it may be through video or maybe through a conference call. So the first way that we really ground ourselves as a team is every Monday morning, we have a 30-minute check-in where we really just replace the water cooler chat. So that's where everyone talks about their weekend. They talk about if they cooked any really good recipes, which we even have a Slack channel for. Everyone shares things from their weekend, if they've had travel, how their partner or spouse or their family is doing, what they did with their friends. And it's really just 30 minutes to kind of ground ourselves and really share what we do with our team. We tried to get rid of it once because we thought that we didn't need it for productivity. And we actually realized that we really missed hearing about our coworkers and what they do. So I highly recommend starting your week off. We do it at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, because we have team members that work from New York all the way to San Francisco and everywhere in between. So aside from the human connection part, I think that there is a real need for everyone to understand the tools that are needed to be able to work from home effectively. So it may seem really basic, but everyone needs an internet connection. You need a solid internet connection, whether that's Wi-Fi or plugged in. You need a laptop or a computer, and maybe a few other things like headphones or a wireless mouse. One company that we spoke to just sort of assumed that everyone would have Wi-Fi and found out that 5 out of 45 of their employees actually did not. So they've ended up sourcing some cellular hotspots for those employees, as well as laptops that can be checked out during the work from home period. Another company gave a $250 work from home credit so employees can shop for the things that they need. If they need to upgrade their internet speed, if they needed to have a larger monitor or a mouse or something like that. You could also send out a request for technology form if you have a larger company and just select those items for your team. One thing that I've mentioned a few times is headphones, and preferably noise canceling ones that have a microphone is something that we highly suggest. There are so many distractions when you're working from home. If your spouse or partner or your children are also there, I promise you that the noise canceling feature will come in really nice. Also, there's always just some atmospheric noise that can be a little bit distracting for those who are on your listening in or on the call with you. So we suggest that as well. So I want to say that the way that each employee works from home is going to drastic differently from one person to the next. So, and that's okay. It's perfectly okay. But there are certain practices that we found that everyone has to follow in order for the work from home to really work. So for us, the number one thing is our team hours. So CatalystCreativ works from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. in whatever respective time zone you're in. We actually have team members in all three US time zones, and someone on our team actually is in London, and it really works for us. So sometimes people on the West Coast tend to work more of a 9 to 5 schedule, but our clients know that we're going to be available to them from 10 to 6, Monday through Friday. And you know, and us being in a service industry, it's really what we need to make our days effective. So, and to make sure that that works, the next most important thing I would say is a very well organized calendar. So if you use Gmail, it's very simple to tick the box next to everyone's name, and everyone on our team has full visibility of everyone's schedules. We understand that when times are back to normal, that people have to take their kids to school. There's things that come up. Maybe your dog has to go to the vet, or maybe you just have a friend in town and need to go spend some time and have lunch with them. So for us, all of that is perfectly okay as long as you have it in your schedule. And so that people would know that if they look on your calendar and that they don't see anything during those 10 to 6 hours, they would assume that you're available for a call or a client call or to schedule something on your computer. So I can't stress enough the importance of an up-to-date calendar. Even if you're traveling, which none of us are right now, I assume, even putting in the time that you're going to be in transit for the 2 hours before a flight, just so that people understand probably you shouldn't schedule a Zoom video call as one of your colleagues is boarding a flight. Next, I definitely think it's great to find a system that's a great way for your team to communicate while working remote. So when we first started Catalyst, we were very scrappy and sort of trying to figure all this out. And working remote was sort of a new thing 7.5 years ago. And so we first started off relying on GChat, which is the Google free chat platform. But we realized that it really sort of felt like AIM. For those of you who remember AOL Instant Messenger, it really felt just a bit casual, and things were getting lost and the pop-ups, and it just didn't really work. So a few years ago, the team sort of drugged me kicking and screaming onto Slack, which now I have to say it was the best thing that we ever did, because we've reduced our inter-office emails by over 80%. So if you can use something like Slack, we highly recommend it. You can basically create a channel or a chat room, if you will, for each of the projects that you're working on. And if you have clients who are on Slack, you can actually invite them into those channels as well. We have internal channels for clients, and then external facing ones as well for us to communicate with them. So definitely recommend that. Others use Skype or Zoom or other inter-office communications, but Slack seems to always come out on top. Speaking of systems, there's Google Drive, which we really love. If you're working on a Gmail platform, it's a way to keep Google Docs and slides and things organized, and probably it's best for fostering collaborative work. So we can all be on a call together if we're working on a pitch deck for a client, or working on whatever it may be. If it's with our design team or whoever, we can really actually be working and editing all at the same time in real time. So you're not worried about, you know, files being saved and then people working on it while you're not. And for us, it's really helpful. But I will say Google Drive does have a little bit of downfall. Sometimes the naming system can be very, very tricky. So stuff gets lost in the abyss of the cloud, which seems to be that it used to just be files, but now it's photos and videos and everything else that seems to live in the cloud. So I definitely think having a well-organized labeling system for Catalyst, if you're naming the file, we actually start with whatever the name of the document is. So it might be, you know, X presentation, or and then followed by an underscore, the client's name, another underscore, and then the date that it was started or last edited. So, or sometimes if you don't need the date, you can put V1 for version 1, V2, whatever that may be. But whatever you figure out, just make sure everyone is super aware of what that naming system is and how folders work within your drive, and it'll definitely help. Over the years, we have tried so many different video platforms and call apps and things like that. But we tried starting off again with Google Hangouts, which I hear a lot of schools are using now and has been quite glitchy. But I think that they are working on that, and Google's always such a great platform. So I have no doubt that they'll work that out. But there's something called Blue Jeans. What we're using now is called Zoom. This has really been the best thing for us. They actually have a few tools, so you can do it as a webinar, which we're doing now. So when you came in, those who joined yesterday didn't have to worry about muting themselves or anything like that. That's already done for you when you're hosting under a webinar. The pricing it's not cheap, but it's definitely competitive, and it's not super expensive. So I would say definitely recommend Zoom. You can also do a free version of it. It just limits the number of people who can be on the call, as well as how long the call can last. So if you're really new to this, sometimes Zoom can be a little bit intimidating. We love to see each other on our team and to be able to see each other's faces so that things don't get misconstrued, or sometimes on conference calls, you end up talking over each other, and the video really seems to help with that. But if you do need to use a conference call platform, there's a lot of them. There's freeconferencecall.com, there's Uber Conference, which we sometimes use. The one thing I would say is if you're inviting clients, that you may want to look into something that's a paid platform, especially if you're in sales or in a service industry. Because sometimes if you're having someone, you're going to pitch them a service and they get on it says, this free conference call is provided by whatever service it is. It can sometimes come across a little bit, I don't want to say cheap, but that's kind of how it is. So you might want to think about that. So I've talked to you about a few tools. We actually have someone on the call yesterday with us, who's actually here with us again today for the recap. My colleague, Allie, who leads a lot of the projects on our team. She loves systems. She's worked in client management and team management for many years. And she's really going to hop on for just a couple of minutes and discuss the importance of client management tools in the work environment.
Thank you, Robert, and hi, everyone. So I'm going to walk through some tools. As Robert mentioned, I have been managing projects remotely for 7 or 8 years, so have a little bit of experience in this world. I know there's probably many of you who have been managing projects for even longer than I have, in office environments, and maybe are used to using some tools like Basecamp or Trello or Asana, maybe even Microsoft Project or Smartsheets as a project manager. But for many of you who are working remotely and away from your teams for the first time, a project or task management tool that's online can really be very helpful, especially if it's visible to everyone on your team. It keeps everyone aligned and moving forward with their tasks, and it can really be viewed and updated by everyone simultaneously. There's 2 great options out there, especially if you're new to some project management tools, and that's Trello and Asana. Both Trello and Asana, they aim to accomplish pretty much the same thing, but the approach is slightly different. They use different methods. So Trello leverages cards that you move between columns, that, where you can denote, a card represents a certain task that's associated with the project, and you can denote whether that is to do, in progress, or has already been completed. And then Asana is more structured like a task management tool, where you have a hierarchy of projects and tasks, and then action items within those tasks. With both of the tools, they're both project management softwares. They allow individual team members to really clearly see what's expected of them, and also let their colleagues see the progress that they're making. You can make updates right in each of the projects or tasks to either, put in a comment to let your colleagues know what progress you've made, or shift deadlines, or upload documents associated with a task or a project. It can really come down to personal preference, which you use. Both of them do a really good job of clearly, visually, and communally presenting deadlines, tasks, even roadblocks, in a way that will make collaboration with your team in a remote environment possible, and honestly really efficient without that in-person contact. As Robert mentioned about some of the other tools that he talked about, a great thing about Asana and Trello is that they both also offer a free version. So the free versions may be slightly more limited, but it at least gives you an opportunity to try the tool, see if it's going to work for you and your team. And then it's usually a nominal monthly fee to start using the tool in like their pro versions. But yeah, so I highly recommend you check those out. They're really great for keeping your team efficient and productive while you're all remote. And I will pass it back over to you, Robert.
Awesome. Thanks, Sally. And if you have any questions about the tools that we've mentioned, we'll try to include all of them in our recap as well. But feel free to email us. We've set up an email, which is coffee@CatalystCreativ, no E at the end of creative.com. And we'll be sure to answer any questions. I can say I'm still trying to figure out Trello and Asana, but as a late adopter, I really can see how much they're helping our business. For those of you who work remote, for us, we sort of try to look at it as we don't really have office space necessarily that we have to pay for, or lighting bills or phone bills, or like high-speed internet for our team. So investing in these tools is really what makes remote work. So the free versions are great, and I definitely recommend trying them to make sure that it's something that you're comfortable with. But in order to really make the most of them, you kind of do have to go for the versions that are paid. And the fees are not terrible. So on our call yesterday, as I mentioned, we had Amanda, who's our co-founder and our CEO of Catalyst, and she really talked a lot about engagement. And we had such an overwhelming response to the engagement piece that's actually what our topic next Wednesday is going to be about. So definitely tune in for that. I also just want to leave everyone with a couple of more things before we leave. Now, these are not the things that any apps that you can go purchase or anything that you necessarily need to sign up for or have a free trial. But I would say that self-care is probably the most important part of all of this remote working from home stuff. And it's not easy. I mean, it's taken us 7.5 years to get where we are, to be confident enough to even put out into the world that we would like to host some sort of a webinar to help those who are new to it. And it can just be so easy to get up early. You go straight to your computer, you work through dinner, you look down, you're still in your pajamas. And then next thing you know, the whole day you haven't gone outside, you've hardly had anything to eat, you haven't had any water. Therefore, you've probably not gone to the bathroom. And that's really the worst thing that you can do. So really setting boundaries, if it's 9 to 5, if it's 10 to 6, whatever the office hours are that you worked in your former job, if you want to add a couple minutes more because you're not having to commute, you definitely can. But make sure that you're taking some time for yourself, and don't put too much pressure on yourself to make your home office look exactly like your office job. Your kid might be crying in the background on a call. If your dog is barking at the UPS man because you're having to order everything on Amazon, we totally get it. So just give yourself a little bit of grace. It's super important during these trying times. Many of you are experiencing this for the first time, and we're all going through a few first times, and so it's all okay. One thing that has really helped me over the last week or so, and I know Amanda has had it as part of her daily practice for many years, is just a quick meditation in the morning. I actually had my good friend with me this morning, as well as my partner and my godson and his nanny. And we actually all sat down and did a quick 6-minute meditation this morning together at 9 a.m. And it was really an awesome way to start the day. So we will continue doing that every morning at 9 a.m. So if you want to do that, there's an app called Insight Timer, INSIGHT Timer. It offers meditations for all levels. If you click through it, it is actually free. So try just starting out with just a quick 5-minute meditation. I promise it's the great way to start the day. Even if you aren't doing a meditation, schedule 30 minutes for lunch with your family, or to FaceTime with a friend who's also working from home, or a family member. Watch a 30-minute rerun of a sitcom that you love. And because you're working remote, schedule a little bit of you time and take a 15-minute nap like the Japanese do after lunch. That quick 15-minute power nap is great for the mind, great for the body, great for the soul, which we definitely recommend. So just give yourself a little grace. We're here for you. Again, coffee at CatalystCreativ.com. Stay tuned for what's going to be coming in the next couple weeks. We've got some great topics lined up and a few guests that are going to be joining us. And again, I'm Robert Fowler. My email is also robert@CatalystCreativ.com. So if you have any questions, we're here for you. And stay safe, and best of wishes to you and your loved ones.